Hey, YouTube family, welcome to the Kevin Strong Show. I am your host, Kevin Strong, and in this video, we're going to talk about men not working. That's right, over 5 million men between the ages of 30 and 54 are able, but they're not willing to work. They're not participating in the labor participation workforce. This is a very, very growing problem. We're going to talk about this. We're going to first look at a video from this guy who created Dirty Jobs. It talks about the trades and blue collar work and how back in the day, obviously that was an honorable thing. For some reason now, men in general between this age group, between 30 and 54, do not want to work for various reasons. And the main reason why they don't want to work, believe it or not, is not money. So something's going on in the male society right now. The alpha male is vilified and persecuted. He's looked at someone who looks at a woman as less of a woman or thinks that she should be in the shadow of his presence. And that's just definitely not true. I grew up in the 70s where you were held accountable for your action. There were no participation awards. If you didn't come in first place, damn it, you didn't get a first place reward. All of this stuff is just eroding society, and I don't think it's going to get better before it gets worse. God forbid if we get into a situation where we have to call our young men and women, specifically men, to defend this nation. I just don't think the average 18 to 40-year-old guy has the same moxie as the 18 and 40 years old did, let's say, back in the day, going back into the 60s and 70s and early 80s. I just think it's just a different mindset. So without further ado, let's go ahead and slide over to this video. This is the guy who invented the very famous program called Dirty Jobs, and he's going to talk a little bit about that and how it's impacting society from a psychological standpoint. And then we're going to look at an article that's going to break this down based on numbers. So stay with me, because at the end of this video, I am going to give you an update as to what's going on with my stock picks and how I did, what went right and what went wrong. So without further ado, let's go ahead and tee this up about this dirty job situation with this guy here.
Talking about was the number of people who are out of work. But on Dirty Jobs, even then, everywhere we went, we saw help wanted signs.
It turns out dozens of real-life economists and other researchers have a possible explanation: a long-term decline in male labor force participation, or as one think tank summarized it, men not at work.
This is a men problem by and large, right?
Seems to be.
Look back to the 1950s, and 98% of men in their so-called prime working years had a job or were looking for one. That number has fallen ever since, to the point where today more than 7 million men have essentially dropped out of the workforce.
We've given a lot of people a lot of options. And incredibly, one of those options is do nothing. Do nothing.
And then you have a whole generation of young men that are going to vote to increase the taxes on men who are working, to reallocate wealth, which is stealing. And the result is, at some point, you run out of other people's money. That's why we now have record national debt. And now credit card debt in America has, for the first time, reached over $1 trillion.
Facts. This is facts. And the other thing that's alarming about these folks that are in their prime working years but not choosing to work is the profound impact it's going to have on our Social Security system. Everybody's heard that they're talking about between 2033 and 2035, depending upon what article that you looked at, that Social Security is going to be somewhat insolvent, not bankrupt, but insolvent, which means that you could be looking at a 25% reduction in benefits. Anytime the government puts out any type of numbers like that publicly, they're probably twice as bad. So I would not be surprised if the cut has to be 50%. There's also been rumors talking about them pushing out the full retirement age from 67 to 70 for those who were born 1960 and after. So, or it can be a combination of both, right? They extend how long it takes you to be eligible to draw on full Social Security from 67 to 70, and on top of that, reduce that benefit. So if you're relying on Social Security to supplement or be a big part of your retirement income, you need to think again. And what's also scary is that if we get into a situation globally from a war standpoint, I would hate to see how this younger generation steps up and defends this nation, because men today in that age group is just not built like they used to be. And there's a myriad of reasons for that. Who knows? We are going to talk about one article that breaks down this age group between 30 and 54 specifically as the number one reason or category why these individuals are not actively looking for work. And believe it or not, spoiler alert, it is not compensation. So I'm a guy that grew up in the 70s, old school. You hold yourself accountable for your actions. Damn it, if you didn't come in first place, you didn't get a first place trophy. So I just think the typical man nowadays just has a different mindset. There's a lot of beta males out there, and I don't say that in a nice regard. I just think, even when you see certain YouTubers and certain people online, and I know I might get a lot of negative feedback or comments from this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I do not think it's a good look as a grown-ass man to get on social media, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or if you have a YouTube platform, and talk about how difficult things is from a whining, sniveling point of view, almost like a victim. That's just not the essence of a man. If things are hard for you and your significant other, you have that conversation offline with your wife, with your girlfriend, or with your partner, however you roll. I got to include Washington. Huh? So you understand what I'm saying? But you don't come out as a grown-ass man and try to ooze confidence, and come off as a victim. That's just not a good trait. That's just not a good trait. But let's slide over here and look at this guy that gives a brief comment about the plight of men not working in this age group. And this is a guy who invented the Dirty Jobs program. That's right. We just took a look at that. I'm having a senior moment. So let's go back. That was funny. Let's go back and look at the let's look at this article. It talks about, sorry, I was multitasking here. But that's all right. So here, men out of the labor force are significantly more likely to cite health-related barrier than unemployed men looking for work. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. This goes back to when I say why I'm a big component about fitness and how fitness relates to your mental faculties and your outlook on life. And it's all interconnected. There's just something about looking good and feeling good, so to speak. So here's the categories, right? You see right here where it says men looking for work, physical. Okay. Let me give you the breakdown. Men looking for work and not looking for work. Okay. 57% not looking for work. Physical, mental, behavioral, health reasons. You're just a weak ass individual. There's just no other way around that. The next category is difficult finding work. And I can make a very cogent argument. It becomes difficult finding work when you're mentally weak. Not to say that if you are looking for a job and you can't find work, you're mentally weak. But what I'm saying is that it requires mental toughness. I'll be the first to admit that being unemployed in 2024 is probably a hell of a lot harder than it was in 1992. I'll be the first to concede that. But at the end of the day, damn it, if you're a man, you're a man. I used to say this a long time. I haven't said this online in a while, but I'm going to share it with you guys. We all have choices. Some of those choices may not be attractive, but you do have options. Just because you have a master's degree in economics doesn't mean you can't be a fireman or you can't be a police officer or you can't get a city job or do something else to make a standard of living until maybe that opportunity presents itself again in the future. You have options, you just don't like them. So when you choose not to explore all of your options, but at the end of the day, see yourself as a victim, that's somebody who's not taking accountability for their actions. So once again, here's another breakdown on that. The number one reason, the most important factors to enter or return to workforce is health insurance benefits. Now, if you're physically fit, obviously health insurance is important, especially if you have a family. Don't get me wrong, but I think that's kind of ironic that the other graph showed that the mental capacity and the physical stuff and the behavior stuff was the number one reason why they were not gainfully looking for employment. And then when you look at the most important factor in picking a job is health insurance benefits. You see how that connects? Then they have, as you see here, I've gone down the line. I'm not going to put my mouse over all this. It'll kind of block it out. Accommodation for disability. Come on, third. This rolls into this. I'm not talking about those individuals that are part of the American Disability Act and people who have severe disabilities or are born with handicaps. That's not what I'm talking about. But I think these two out of the three, you can kind of make an articulate argument. It has something to do with just I need you to take care of me, opposed to having the mindset of I'm going to take care of myself. Look at the fourth option, paid sick leave. Look at the fifth one, flexible work schedule. Look at the sixth one, paid personal medical leave, medical health benefits, transportation. You're not even worried about your retirement plan. Look at that. That's far down. That's only 37%. That's crazy. So you're going to spend 20, 30, 40 years working somewhere and not have the retirement plan or a way to make sure you're going to retire and have your financial future secure for you and your family. That's going to be that far down the list. You mean to tell me that transportation and being close to work is more important than your goddamn retirement plan? This is what I'm talking about. This is ASSA 9, ASSA 10, ASSA 11. And this is why I say for those problems that are self-inflicted, take the pain. Because you brought that on yourself. You just cannot make this up. There's another stat here that I wanted to share with you. Nearly half of respondents cite a lack of necessary skills as preventing them from work. So here we go. Obsolete skills, lack of education, training, poor work record, or security issues. Okay, once again, this is what I'm talking about. How many times have you guys seen me on video talking about you can't be complacent? You have to adapt, improvise, and overcome. You have to constantly keep learning and educating yourself and evolving. Do not allow AI to replace your standard of living. And if you're in a particular job or occupation where you think AI is threatening that job or occupation, it's incumbent upon you to what? Change, adapt, and overcome. And that might mean some temporary pain, getting retrained in something else, getting a supplemental skill. So in the event that you do get phased out of that job or occupation, it won't have a negative blowback financially to you and your family. But we don't want to do that. We want to sit on the couch, receive transfer payments, and talk about all this mental health shit. And as a grown-ass man, talk about how tough things are, but you're really only putting forth 20% effort, but you want 80% of the result. It's just a hot mess. So finally, last but not least, I don't want to go off on a tangent. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up and talk about stocks. So a lot of you who've been following me on Facebook, I was kind of giving you guys a blow-by-blow update as to what was going on with my stock picks. So it didn't look like I was saying things that was going right or wrong after the fact. I was giving you real-time intel, so to speak. So this is one that I'm still in the game, but it's not looking good. CrowdStrike, which is part of that outage that affects Microsoft and all these other software glitches that are affecting the airlines internationally. Earlier in the week or last week, I believe, I jumped into this trade at around 271 and took out about 5 contracts. Down quite a bit. I haven't looked at it today, but I think this thing's down almost $400. My option expires August 2nd. Sorry if you hear that noise in the background of next week. So I'm hoping just to mitigate that loss. This is the trade that I am recommending that I took late Friday afternoon is the Russell 2000. The symbol was IWM. I went and did what's called a bear put spread, which is a bullish position. I took out a put spread, a bull put spread at 218. I think I sold the 218 and bought the 213 with a wide spread. So layman terms, I got in about right here where this bounces at, right where it says buy. And this is what they call a bull flag pattern. So this is looking very good. It's strong after hours, and this should be a very, very nice return. So for those of you who follow me on Facebook, you guys will continue to get those updated results for my trades. And like I said, and one guy, my friend named Jeff, really left a really nice comment. And that's why I go transparency. He goes, hey, Kev, I'm glad you're showing some of your losses, because if somebody's only showing their winnings, they're either criminals or they're lying. Right? And that's probably true. So I'm going to kind of use this as an ending spot for the video. I hope you found this interesting. Please leave a comment. Tell me if you agree about this phenomenon that's happening between men between the ages of 30 and 54. Do you agree with that? I do think we're, for the most part, in a beta male mentality, and society coddles that. And that's why I'm a big believer by saying it doesn't matter about Republicans or Democrats, because society is sick. Something's wrong with our culture on the male and female side. And the new president, or if the current administration gets another 4 years, that's not going to rewrite the way people's mindset is about being civil towards one another and holding themselves accountable for their actions. Hope you enjoyed this edition of the Kevin Strong Show. Once again, if you have, do me two things. Hit the like button. Please leave a comment. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing, because I do release my videos once a week, typically Saturday morning around 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I'll see you in the next one.